What's up, fanboys and fangirls? Welcome to another edition of the Fanboys Anonymous podcast that we've got going on here, and a first edition of the Mount Rushmore that we're doing over here on at least the Blue Brand. We've done plenty of these over on Smart Out Moment, and we're going to finally take it over to the fanboys side of things and talk about the top 4 things in whatever category it is that we're talking about in geek culture for this edition. We'll get into it in a little bit. I am Tony Mango. You should know me by now. You should also know Robert DeFelice.
Wayne. Bruce Wayne.
And a special little treat there, we've got Caroline Oliveira, my beautiful fiance.
I was not expecting the beautiful fiance thing, and I was trying to think of something funny to say, but that just caught me off guard. So,
Holy shit, Callum got adorable. When did Callum get so cute?
I'm not adorable.
He turned into a cowboy, then he's turning into
Wait, so you marrying Callum? What's up with that?
That's the surprise.
Oh.
So this episode is sponsored as part of the Patreon from Guest 5. Thank you, Guest 5, for all of your continued support, and thank you for sponsoring this episode, and thank you for picking an awesome topic for us to do here, because we've been wanting to do this for a long time, and we're finally doing it, because now we finally have like the dedicated block of time to be able to do it, and I figured out the graphics and everything else that I needed to figure out on my end. And what we're doing, if you can't tell by the thumbnail and the picture on the screen and the title and the description and all the other kind of ways that you should have already figured this out by now, we're doing a Mount Rushmore of Batman villains, or Batman's rogues gallery, or archenemies, or bad dudes, whatever you want to call it. And we're going to do the same kind of a breakdown as what we usually do here for the Mount Rushmore on the Smart Out Moment stuff, where we're going to just toss out a whole bunch of ideas, and the idea being we need 4, only 4. You got to pick 4. You can't pick more than 4 to represent the overall best representation of like the pillars of the particular topic. And of course, this one being Batman villains. So we're not going to obviously have, I don't know, Barbara Gordon in this because she's one of the allies, but maybe we'll do Mount Rushmore of Batman allies in the future or something. So we have lots and lots and lots of different options that we can go through here. And realistically, about a good like 15 that could be in the Mount Rushmore, and then plenty of other ones where it's like, I don't think that anybody's going to make a case for, the 4th version of anarchy or something. But we invite you to do the same thing that we're doing here in the comments section below and tell us your thoughts on our breakdown and who you would pick for the Mount Rushmore and all the other kind of things that you would want to chime in about. So the best way to do that is to head on over to the YouTube channel, if you're not listening to this on YouTube at least. And if you are, then awesome. That's the best way. Hit the like button while you're over there. Hit the share button if you want to pass this along to anybody who you think would be interested in giving their opinions or listening to this. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't done that already. Ring that little notification bell as well. And if you want to make sure that you have more content coming your way from Fanboys Anonymous, hit the join button, or the equivalent of that is the Patreon that I just mentioned a minute ago or so from the reason why we're doing this. So patreon.com/fanboysanonymous. We got the Pick Your Poison tier where you can request whatever you want us to do, and as long as it's reasonable, then we'll do it. And there's also the bonus features, and even just $1 goes a long way in really helping not only the morale of everything, but also just helping the channel grow. So show your support and let us know that you're loving what we were putting out there. We'll talk more plugs later on. That's the highlight of this whole thing, right? It's the plugs. That's what people click on here for.
I'm totally sure that's why they come here.
Yeah, eventually we'll do Mount Rushmore of plugs, and be like a drain plug, and we can take that in a weird direction, all right? So, the Batmans, or the goddamn Batman, or B. Wayne, whatever you want to call him. He's got a lot of great villains, and one of them that obviously needs to go in the Mount Rushmore is KG Beast. No.
I was gonna go with Condiment King.
I think we need to hold off on the discussion of the one that's guaranteed, because
we can't start with a Joker discussion. You can't do that.
Because, I mean, come on. So we obviously are not going to run down all of his villains, because even going through my Batman blueprint and trying to have 100 stories, I don't have enough room for all of them. And even some of those stories have like 15 villains in them. So obviously we can skip through the Batman Revenge Squad and the East Side Dragons, and apparently one villain is called Ugly American, which God knows how many of them there could be. John Kennedy Payne was brainwashed by the U.S. government to be an assassin with extreme patriotic emotions. Something went wrong, however, and he developed a hatred for non-whites and foreigners of all shapes and sizes, including dogs like poodles.
So I think that deserves a deep dive of itself.
Yeah, I might have to look into that.
Yeah.
Apparently the
Jesus.
characters were created in 1992, too. So this
Okay,
isn't
it
even
could've
like
been
some
created in
wacky
2020.
60s thing.
They really named him John Kennedy.
John Kennedy Payne.
Oh God. Okay.
His rage comes to an end when he was taken out by agents of the same government that created him as Batman subdued him. So,
Was he born on the day of the Kennedy assassination?
maybe. He matters so little that there's not even a Wikipedia entry for him, so yeah, screw him. Screw Tiger Shark. We're not going to get into King Tut and Gearhead and False Face and
On
Danny the
flip
Dummy.
Side, though, I mean, he's not a real Batman villain, but can we make a case for King Shark?
Well, sweetie, what do you think?
Okay. Okay. Has this been brought up on any of the podcasts before?
I
No,
don't
but
know for sure.
Okay, so well, I'll explain that. So Tony has this delusion that I'm not cool, and because I am cool, and whenever we're watching the Harley Quinn show, he just keeps harping on the fact that I am King Shark.
You totally
I
are.
am not King Shark. I am not King Shark. I'm not. I'm Poison Ivy. I'm cool. I'm mysterious. I'm evil. I'm a badass.
With the
Poison Ivy is not evil in that show.
I was just gonna say she's not really evil, but I am as a person evil.
Sure you
And
are.
I'm very intimidating. I am. There's absolutely nothing about me that's King Shark related.
Leave a comment below if you're very scared about Caroline right now.
Yeah, you should. I scared Rob last night. I can
Yo,
scare people.
Yeah, that's true, actually.
See, I can scare people, okay? And I am intimidating. And when I'm being assertive, I'm being assertive. So I rest my case. I'm not King Shark.
So
Yeah.
the thing is, she kind of got in my head. That's how she scared me, and I think that's a good way for Scarecrow.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, so I'm Scarecrow now.
Scarecrow is definitely one of the big guns. He is a great character. He can be kind of a crappy character if they write him weird, where they pretty much make him a total loser who, if he doesn't catch you with his gas, that's it. I mean, he's not the best fighter out of the mix or anything, nor does he have to be. But Jonathan Crane is one of those like fundamental. I'd argue that there's like 4 aspects. I don't even know if maybe this would be like the pillars that I would kind of go for this, but that there's kind of 4 ways that I would judge a Batman villain. They're either in the mob, they're a complete psychopath with like some kind of a gimmick, they're an ethical or a philosophical drama, or dilemma drama, or there's somebody who represents fear. And Scarecrow's definitely on the fear side of things, with a little bit of the psycho gimmick thing, because obviously the dude dresses up like a scarecrow. But if you want to get into the aspect of Batman being like a frightening character and scaring people and looking into the mirror and seeing a reflection of himself, Scarecrow is one of the best ways to do that, because he's all about fear.
I think Scarecrow is legitimately the one villain that I would be terrified to cross, because what his toxin does puts you through hell, and he doesn't even have to actually do much of anything to you.
Very true. I think, arguably, and I'm sure that, if you break down every villain, you can make an argument that any villain could have a horror movie written about them. But I think Scarecrow is easily a villain that could enter like the horror universe without not much work. And to go back to the point that Tony brought up about like, oh, if you write him weird, he's kind of crappy. But that could also be the case of any character. Like, let's be honest, you can make the Joker pretty lame.
Suicide Squad.
I don't know. I mean, that's a character that he always has boners. So.
Oh my god. But everything about the way he's normally depicted, especially with the Arkham games, his whole sequence was definitely like the creepiest. And I think any villain that can just go into someone's mind without using the muscle side of things, like that to me is the scariest.
I think he's somebody who definitely is in the running to be in there. And I'd put a pin in him as a potential option.
He's definitely in the discussion for later on.
I'm going to toss out some names that we're definitely not going to end up picking. Just because I think that they're worth bringing up about how, the Batman Rogues Gallery is fun. We're not picking Condiment King.
You know what, though? Condiments suck. They legit, ketchup sucks.
Yes, it does.
No!
It's awful.
It's 2-1, sweetie.
What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you guys? First of all, you're Americans. You should just love ketchup. I don't know what's wrong with that. But Brazilians are really big on ketchup too. But condiments are great. You can grab a crappy meal, put lots of ketchup on it, and it's delicious. Or at least edible. Yeah.
Well, not when he gives it to you. Because if he gives it to you, you suffer anaphylactic shock.
I'll die happy.
He's not going on the list. Neither is ketchup, although ketchup is definitely a villain. And so is mustard. Crazy Quilt, not going on the list. Sorry, Crazy Quilt. Ragdoll, actually not as bad of a character as some of the other ones, but no. I don't think anybody's making a case for the Electrocutioner, but that's a hell of a name. That alone is just one of the better names. And he had a horrible fight in one of the Batman games. I forget which one it was. It was Arkham Origins, maybe, where you punch him once and he's done.
I think it was Origins because I don't remember seeing him after that or before that.
Yeah, I don't remember either.
I can't tell you much about Simon Hurt, and I don't think anybody would pick Simon Hurt as a top 4. I mean, I got a list of the good ones, and then a list of ones like Maxi Zeus. So nobody's going to be but Maxi Zeus had this great thing where whatever, and he's, no, Maxi Zeus sucks. He's good for...
Leave us a comment if you disagree and you think Max is the bomb.
If you do, I'd love to hear the argument of
I want to know what you're doing with your time in the Batman universe.
Right, if it's damn it, why do they keep talking about this Joker guy? And what's up with all these episodes about Catwoman? I want to see Maxi Zeus again. Maxi Zeus is a great character for one episode of a TV show where it's just crazy dude thinks he's a Greek god or something. Okay, smashy, smashy, punch, punch, punch. He's done.
In that same vein, Roxy Rocket.
Yeah.
Good one-off episode, but no.
Similar name, Jezebel Jet. I will make a case for Penny Plunderer. No, I'm kidding.
Okay.
But I will talk about a character that's great, but he's certainly not somebody who's on this list, is Kite Man, just because of the Harley Quinn TV show. He's just a great character, period.
Kite Man is fantastic.
I want more Kite Man, for sure. Now, if I'm anybody on that show, it's probably Kite Man.
I agree
Well, there
with
you go.
that.
There's your Ivy and Kite Man.
Oh, so it can be Ivy again?
You're still
Like,
King Shark.
I'm not King Shark.
There are some cool things when it comes to Holiday and Calendar Man for like a one-shot story, and I would love to see that adapted in some fashion, but not a Mount Rushmore.
Clock King, I think, is great just because I would probably be a villain based off of time. But
Clock King from the animated series, for sure. Like the Temple Fugit version, where he's got the monocle, and actually no, he's wearing glasses, not a monocle, right? Yeah.
no, well, I'm sure he's wearing glasses.
You give me that Clock King again. I would love to see that in some fashion, but he's kind of a little bit of a knockoff Riddler. So we'll talk Riddler later on, but that Clock King is great. But when you get to the Clock King from the comics that wears like a spandex outfit with a bunch of clocks on it and a big clock face, then that's just dumb.
I totally misheard that.
Yeah.
No, that would be a different character. But again, another Riddler knockoff is Cluemaster. And if you're going to go for a Cluemaster, you're going to go for a Riddler. And I think that Riddler, maybe we'll talk about him right now. Riddler is one of my, if he's not in the top 4, he's like the first in number 5.
Right. Riddler is definitely top notch, and he should at least make the cut, and if not, be right there on the chopping block where he just misses it.
I agree.
Riddler is the type of character that can, of course, be done poorly. And when they get into the whole idea, like Jim Carrey and the 60s TV show where they've got him like cackling like the Riddler, cackling like the Joker, and wearing the spandex outfit and everything, I'm not
Okay, that Duke Forever is fantastic.
in its own way.
I was obsessed with it when I was young, okay? Like, Jim Carrey in that role to me was like everything. I used to think he was so sexy when he was a scientist, too.
Really? I don't know how to feel about this.
I'm not surprised in the
Listen,
slightest.
okay. I saw the light afterwards now, like, sexy is Danny DeVito as Penguin. But back then, I had a thing for Jim Carrey since The Mask, because like I always had a thing for funny dudes, and he had the pale skin going on with the dark hair. Obviously, that's what I like. But when he was like the weird scientist with like the messy like red hair and like being like a loser, ugh, I was all about that. I was all about that. I was so embarrassed. My face is burning right now, and I admit that. But I used to love that movie so much.
I just watched it a few months ago. It holds up.
It does.
It's the first movie I was ever in theaters for. That's the first film I ever went to see. That definitely holds up, and that's a great Riddler.
I think the first movie I ever saw in theaters was All Dogs Go to Heaven. I don't know for sure. That's a hell of an experience for the first movie to see Batman Forever. Holy
Right,
rusty
explain
metal.
what
You said that your first movie at the theater was watching that like so traumatic, depressing movie.
I don't remember much about it though.
Oh God, like that's like traumatizing.
It is pretty traumatizing, actually.
Yeah.
I remember more about Homeward Bound than I do about All Dogs Go to Heaven.
God, that movie broke me.
But
in so many
Riddler,
ways.
when Riddler's done well, and I'm hoping that this is going to be the case for the Robert Pattinson movie, Riddler is so good because you can get into so many aspects of his character that are different than some of the other ones, but also the same. Because he's a psychopath in his own way. But when you write him really, really well, he kind of isn't. And also, you can take the character in an even further direction with that, where he completely is. And he's the same character, but he's different. Like, I like 2 versions of the Riddler. And I always go back and forth between which one I like better. One of them is the version that and I don't know, I can't source the comics and stuff because I don't read the comics as much. I tend to read like Wikipedia articles more than I actually read the comics. But there's one of them where Riddler turns himself in to the police, and they're wondering why. And he said, I really tried not to leave a clue this time, and I couldn't do it. I just had to leave a clue. And when I realized that, then I realized I might actually be sick in the head. And I think that that's so good, because it's like, oh my God, he's got like character growth instead of just being, I don't know, like Ratcatcher is going to be, the Ratcatcher 2 is going to be in the new Suicide Squad, but it's like, okay, dude controls rats, whatever. Like, that's cool to have, like, whether it's Edward Nashton or Edward Nigma or whatever you want to call him, for him to say, oh, I might actually need to see a therapist, and I might need to have some kind of medication or some kind of trauma treatment or whatever. I love that. But I also at the same time love the character version that says, I need to beat Batman no matter what, at any cost, and then stops because he starts working for the police. And they've done that before, where he's been like an ally. And he's just sort of like, yeah, I am really smart. And that's awesome. And as long as you're acknowledging it, I'll be a good guy too. But I just want everybody to know that I'm fucking smart. And that's like...
So basically you really appreciate when, oh, sorry, ambulances, if you guys can hear it. I'm in New York City, so just bear with it.
It's Gotham.
So basically I am in Gotham. You like that Riddler when he is extra egocentric and somehow he becomes like a nicer guy.
Yeah, kinda. I don't know if this means anything about me, but I do tend to root for the assholes and everything. So.
You do, yeah.
They're understanding more and more about that as we're going through the Bond franchise with the Review to a Kill podcast. But the Riddler, I think, when he does more of just the pure crazy stuff, is still great. And you can get him setting traps, and you can get him being obsessed about Batman's identity, or in stories like the Hush story, where he's like, yeah, I know your identity. Like, I'm the Riddler. I'm smart. I'm great. And I like the Riddler character better when he's wearing like a suit, like a green suit, rather than the spandex outfit with the question marks all over it. Give me basically businessman Riddler instead of that dude that tries to sell, was it like a cashback or sells the gold thing or something? You know which guy I'm talking about? Those infomercials.
Oh, I was like, wait, I don't remember any of that from any of the bad. Yes, I do. Yeah. What is the was it the nut chop? What is the chop master? Was that the one? He kind of had like a Riddler like.
The slap chop guy is not the one I'm talking about now.
Yeah.
Although he's been in prison, I think so.
Yeah, he's been in prison.
So yeah, the slap chop guy not going to be on the Batman villain list.
He could be.
More so than some of the other ones, at the very least. Like, I don't remember anything really bad happening with like actually maybe something did anything happen bad with the OxyClean guy?
Didn't he die?
Oh yeah, but I mean, like, he wasn't like a villain in any way, was he?
Yeah, they found a substance in his body when he died. I don't.
OxyClean.
I think
maybe his Flex Seal.
I think rule number 1 is don't use your own source, but you never know.
So we ran into a little bit of an audio issue, but we've sorted that out. And while we were trying to figure that audio out, Caroline had a question in mind about Riddler. What was that?
Yeah. So like based on what we were talking about, how the Riddler could arguably be the most intelligent villain. If not in the whole Batman universe, but potentially the most intelligent one that we're talking about today. Do you guys feel like because of that, just based on that alone, he hasn't really been used to his full potential. I mean, if he's that smart and if he's able to create all these traps, couldn't he have just beaten Batman like for sure 100% already?
No, Batman is just smarter.
Yeah, I mean that's the first snafu is nobody's gonna be smarter than the Bat. But
he's
I
the
do
Batman.
think Riddler could be used in a more serious tone. Actually, I thought season 1 of Gotham handled him really well. And that show didn't do a lot of things right, but I did like the way they handled Edward.
It did like maybe 3 things right out of the entire history of the series. Casting for Penguin was great.
Well,
I love him.
The casting for some of the characters was pretty good. But then again, we're talking about a show that was like, let's have every villain pop up and be 30 years older than Batman. And so that way when he becomes Batman, they can all be like decrepit old people or something. Like, let's have a Mr. Freeze that's probably 90 by the time he becomes actually Batman or whatever. But yeah, I liked Riddler in that show. I'd argue Riddler in that show is better than the Jim Carrey one. I don't know how sexy you would find him, though, sweetie.
It wasn't bad looking, but I don't know. Not approved. The Penguin in the show. Ugh, yes.
On a list of characters on that show that I would think would be under the hot list, I don't think that I'd be ranking those two higher than Barbara or... God, I forget the character's name, the one Jessica Lucas plays. Or even like Fish Mooney.
Fish Mooney was pretty good looking. I know that Caroline would say the Penguin from that show, though. That's all Caroline.
Oh, yeah, right? He is. Like, I love him as an actor. He's really good in horror movies. So when I found out that he got cast as Penguin, I was like, oh, it's perfect because he has played like psychopaths before. And when I saw him because he's a natural blonde, when I saw him with the black hair, with those clothes, like, okay, he could get it. Yeah.
So a future pick your poison idea, just have Caroline rank different iterations of villains on their hotness.
I am all for it. Women and men. So, don't worry about if you're not into just hearing somebody blab about guys. I can talk about women too. Fish Mooney could get it.
My list of the characters that are just like funny, like the Terrible Trio and the Royal Flush Gang is like, they're cool, but like they're not going to be on the list.
They were used very well in Batman Beyond.
Yeah, they were so much better in that version. And Ace. I love Ace. Ace is such a great character. Both Aces. The girl Ace and the pet. But the one that I have on my list, I don't even know why I necessarily put this one on this list. It shouldn't be. That's actually like, I'm not going to make a case for this character to be in the Mount Rushmore, but I think that this character is pretty cool. It's Professor Pig.
That was gonna be one of the characters I was like, who the hell would pick this guy? Really?
He's messed up.
Well,
and
they all are.
He's one of the only characters that they've created over the past, 20 years or whatever, that I think actually could be used in some more things and could actually freak people out. Because anybody who's not familiar with Professor Pig, he is this dude who wears a pig mask. And he usually is like, when they show like his, everybody's got like their lair and, whatever. Joker usually is working with like a carnival circus type of atmosphere or a toy shop or something. This guy tends to be in like butcher shops and like meat packing plants and whatever, because what he does is he's like a surgeon who butchers people and brainwashes them, and he makes them into these, like, I think that they're called Dolatrons, and he's kind of just like a real serial killer psycho kind of guy that they just happen to put a pig mask on instead of being over the top and like a Killer Croc type where it's like, all right, I don't believe in any of that. But this could be a real thing. Like, some dude could just put on a pig mask and just butcher people. And that's messed up.
That is pretty fucking messed up.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if it was kind of inspired by Ed Gein. Ed Gein, real life serial killer. He wanted to be a woman, so he started getting bodies from the cemetery, women from the cemetery, and then creating a skin suit for himself. And he ended up killing someone to, complete his skin suit. And one of his things was that he had like a skin mask, and that kind of like also makes me think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So yeah, Professor Pig is really cool.
I'm trying to find out if there's anything on Ed Gein on the page about this. Grant Morrison made the character in 2007. I'm not seeing anything about Ed Gein specifically, but I'm sure that he probably had like some kind of influence on that.
It's wild to me that a human being was just like, I want to be a woman, so I'm just gonna start slaughtering people and wearing their skin.
Yeah.
Well, he really only officially, because there's some gossip about that he could potentially have killed his mom and his brother, but he officially only killed this woman who was like the bar lady in town, and she was kind of like sassy and like she didn't give a shit, and she would have one night stands with people, and he killed her. And he also had like, I think that at one point like he got his mom's body, removed her vulva, spray painted that with either silver or gold paint, and placed it in a box next to his bed.
Okay.
And
See,
ladies
like,
and gentlemen, that's how I seduced Tony.
So like, those are the type of characters that when you get into like the comics, you can get into some of that, but no reasonable TV series that's marketed towards kids is ever going to get into that side of things. It's one thing if the Joker is like, killing a lot of people, shooting a lot of people, whatever it might be. But if you start getting deeper into that, then they're kind of like, this isn't going to be the PG-13 market for these kids, especially with the way that they went nuts over Batman Returns. But
but Professor Pig is supposed to be like, it's schizophrenic, right? That's like his whole thing. That he had like some sort of breakdown, and that's what made him become the psychopath. So, he already has like a very dark background to him. And even if you don't know anything about the background, like you guys said, like he's wearing like a pig mask. Like that alone is very Purge-esque and creepy.
I like him just because it could be a real villain.
Yeah.
And I think he should get points for that.
But that also brings up another question: is to some people, like, what is Batman? And if you ask somebody who grew up with the 60s TV show, they're going to say, well, the best four, or the, Mount Rushmore four, are going to be Joker, Penguin, Riddler, and Catwoman. And that's almost just going to be because they're goofy characters on that. And if somebody really likes Batman Brave and the Bold, then they're going to like a character more like Killer Moth, than they are going to like Black Mask. Because they're going to say, well, that's too dark and that's too scary. But then other people are like, don't give me Magpie. Magpie's terrible. I want Victor Zsasz, who cuts people up and then cuts his own body. It's kind of like, do you go with like, there's at least got to be one representation of the wacky Batman character on the Mount Rushmore? Or do you go with the four that you just tend to think is overall? Or do you go with, I mean, even characters that are really serious, they have funny versions of them. And then there's funny versions of characters that are even funnier in other, kind of ways. The Dark Knight Returns is a much different story than, Laughing Fish.
So I like my Batman right in the middle. I think I've said a million times on every show. Batman the Animated Series is the best blend of both worlds. I love Batman 66. And there is something to be said for that Riddler and that Joker. But if I was to base everything based off of just that show, I'm not sure a name like Mr. Freeze would ever be a top villain, because in that show he's ridiculous. I like when they can just sort of walk the line, and to me, the more serious, even the more like realistic villains are the better ones.
I like Batman as dark as possible, as creepy as possible, but I am not using that to like help me make my decisions. I guess this is like a horrible like analogy, but it's the only one that I can think of. You know, Batman is in a way kind of like Mickey Mouse, whereas like we don't have just like one generation that grew up with Batman. We have several generations, and not only that, but within those generations, people have their very specific like favorite versions of Batman and the villains. So it could be really complicated to just like, you know, and it's something that it's hard when you're giving your opinion, because at the end of the day, it's your opinion and it's based on what you like and what you dislike. But I think that one thing we need to keep in mind is like, since we're dealing with this character and characters are so iconic, we should also focus on like, okay, what are the villains that like throughout the years have like, when you think of Batman, no matter like what age group you belong to, what's your background, like what are some of the villains that come to mind? And is it because those villains like got you like excited to like read a comic book, or excited to go to the movie theater and see like how that Joker was gonna play out? Or is it like a villain that you had a really fun time beating in one of the video games, or a villain that made you laugh? I think that there are a few that would come to mind regardless of how you answer those questions. And it's tough because a lot of characters and a lot of reincarnations of them, but I think if we keep like the longevity of the characters and their ability to get reinvented successfully, I think that that could help a lot.
Yeah, I think that needs to factor into who is in a top 10 villain list versus who's in the Mount Rushmore. As far as like, Deadshot's a great character. I love Deadshot. But I like Deadshot better as a member of the Suicide Squad than a Batman villain. So I wouldn't put Deadshot in a Mount Rushmore of Batman villains. And Deathstroke, same thing. He's like a Teen Titans villain to me. I'm also just stuck on thinking of Batman's like Mickey Mouse now, just thinking of being like, ha ha, I'm Batman. Kind of like.
No, but like, then it kind of makes sense where I was coming from, though. It's like, because like if you talk to somebody from like, I don't know, the 50s or whatever, like Mickey had a certain look to him, and he barely, like, he didn't speak anything, and he was sillier. And now like if you talk to somebody that played that video game with all like the different characters, I forget the name.
Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, so like he's kind of like almost like a little action hero, like a leader of the group or whatever. So it's like, you know, it's kind of like that. Not that, like, you know.
I know, it's just it popped in my mind. I'll make the argument that
analogy, though. Like, there's a generation of people who legitimately looked at the Joker and could only see why so serious.
Yeah.
True.
And there's a whole generation of people that, what do you mean the Joker doesn't have a painted on mustache? You know? I'll make the case Oswald the Rabbit's better than Mickey Mouse, too.
There's no way you can make that case.
He's a cuter little character. He looks like he's more badass, too. He'll take him in a fight. I'm going to rapid fire some names. Stop me if you think that they're worth a discussion, because I don't think that they are in the Mount Rushmore, but I think that, yeah, it's worth just mentioning their names. The mutants from The Dark Knight Returns.
No, but great story.
The Phantasm, or any of the variations of it, like the Reaper.
Again, no, but great movie.
Deacon Blackfire. The Sewer King. Great White Shark. Copperhead, the Calculator,
That
Catman,
one. What you're talking about?
the Calculator,
No, I'm joking.
Phosphorus Rex, Flamingo, you know, like there's Shrike, Bronze Tiger, Duella Dent, no, Brother Eye, no, it's more of like a Justice League type of a thing. Anarchy, mentioned him earlier a little bit. Anarchy's like a fun enough character. Solomon Grundy, Born on a Monday, not a Batman villain in the Mount Rushmore in my mind.
And I don't like Solomon Grundy.
He's just, you know, I am
He's Andre towards the end, you know what I mean? Like he's just very lumbering and
I like his design on the games though. Was it Arkham City? Yeah, it looks cool.
Grundy's a character to me that I don't see why he's in a Batman story, and I really don't understand even more so why he was originally a Green Lantern villain, because that makes no sense to me. But I really like Grundy if you do Justice League Dark and you have like Deadman and Zatanna and whatever, because then you start getting into the magic type stuff, and then that makes more sense to me. But they usually just put Grundy with Batman, and I don't know. Batman shouldn't fight Frankenstein's monster. Victor Zsasz, a character that's like, he's really cool for a one shot, but
I like Victor Zsasz.
Victor Zsasz, he's got to go with like Professor Pig in wow, what a fucking realistic psycho.
Yeah. I don't think he needs to be on our final list of our final four, but he like just exactly what Rob just said. Like, yeah, like there are serial killers that did stuff like that, you know. So like, yeah, like he freaks me out. Like I tell Tony every single time we play Arkham City that I avoid Victor Zsasz side quests like the plague. It freaks me out. It makes me so anxious. I don't want it. I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to hear his voice. It freaks me out. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
If we were doing a Mount Rushmore of terrifying villains, he might be up top.
He's the type of character that I really like when they can get into just like kind of a story where Batman has to stop him from killing somebody, and that's the end of it. But you can't make him the lead villain in a movie. If the whole movie is just, well, this guy stabs people, Batman just catches him.
Yeah,
you know,
not with Batman, but like again, like
Yeah.
if you were doing some sort of serial killer, you know, like you could potentially do like a Seven-esque movie with Victor Zsasz.
I think he could be the star of a season of a series, but not for like a full movie, not for, you know, mainline villain.
I could see it maybe being like a 3-episode arc of something where it's like, well, these people are being cut up and we need to find out who's killing them, and then no, it's this guy kind of a thing. Or you know what, they could make like the movie Joker. Like they could do a Victor Zsasz movie and have it be about a guy who does that.
Or not Suicide Squad, but whatever, the Fantastic
Birds of Prey. Yeah, not that version. Nothing of that version of any of those characters should ever exist. So when you get into Harley Quinn cares more about a sandwich than she does about anything else, and you get into, hey, this is a Batgirl, but she's actually not at all Batgirl, and God, that movie sucked. So did Last Jedi, for that matter. Ventriloquist is a cool character, but not a Mount Rushmore character. He's just an interesting, you know, oh, this guy's nuts. He thinks that the little mobster puppet's talking, you know?
Yeah.
Scarface is a better villain than Ventriloquist because he's actually the bad guy. Firefly, no. Just cool for like Batman fighting somebody. And that's something to take into account too, like the physical villains. Clayface, no. I really like...
He's a great henchman.
Yeah, I like Clayface in theory, but there's like 10 versions of Clayface, and none of them ever really get past one story. It's basically just, it's Basil Karlo, and he's an actor who now he can turn into this like mud monster. Well, once Batman takes him out, that's it. You know, the most interesting thing that's ever been done with Clayface is that one Justice League episode where he pretends to be the Flash and Batman just shoots his grappling hook directly into his stomach. And he's like, "You ever played your card, dude?" or whatever it was.
Yeah, but he's I also say that one of the best things that has ever like had Clayface is the Lego Batman video game. He's really cute in it. And he's like so silly and like stupid. I love it.
Yeah, if they can like play into the more fun things of that, Clayface is great.
I'll say Clayface in the Harley Quinn show, fucking trip. Like I love that character where he's just so incensed on. No, I have to get into the role, and I have to. He's a great.
Yeah.
He's an actor kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a fantastic character. That show's so good. Like I never expected it to be as good as it is. But yeah, I mean, even then, he's a funny, heroic character in that, and that's like the most interesting version that they've had for a long time. But the animated series too. I mean, for being a little kid show, like that whole idea of him melting in the rain and all that, great
There's
music.
There's a really good one. It's Tim Drake's already Robin.
Oh yeah.
But with the girl, and how the girl is just an extension of Clayface. God, that tugs at the heartstrings.
Yeah, that's a great episode. That show, they need to bring it back.
Yeah.
I'm going to mention a big name, though. We haven't talked about a big name in a while. And I think this one's like, ooh, because I don't know, but Penguin. Penguin's iconic. He is great for both the 60s wacky, you know, kind of character. Burgess Meredith was great in that kind of a part, but then you've got like the Danny DeVito part was great for being this weird macabre sort of thing, and then you've got the version from the TV show, which is more of the gangster type, and that's my favorite Penguin is the gangster. Like, I like the version that runs the Iceberg Lounge, and he's kind of a reflection of like the Bruce character more than anything else, because plenty of people are like, well, Scarecrow is kind of like, well, you're intimidating people as Batman. This is what would happen if you intimidated people and you were a bad guy. And Riddler is like, well, that's the opposite of the detective part. And the Penguin is more like, well, what if Bruce was an awful mobster instead?
I think it was the Telltale games that had it where the Cobblepots and the Wayne family were actually very close, and he hates him because, you know, the one family just sort of outranked the other. I do think Penguin is a good reflection of Bruce. I almost want to say he's a given for the Mount Rushmore, but I also know that there are others I would fight much harder for.
I mean, there's a good like 8 characters that we only know that there's one guaranteed. That it's really who's going to win the other 3. You know, because we already have that that set aside for Calculator, and but like Penguin, he's in my top list.
He definitely is. I mean, he's been in every iteration of Batman, hasn't he?
Pretty much.
Yeah, I think that even if I ask my mom, who's, you know, Batman's like not her thing, if I asked her to name a few of the Batman villains, Penguin will be one of them. Like, because he has like different sides to him where, you know, you can go creepy with him. You can go like the mob boss image. You can be the funny, like, random like penguin guy. Like, he's easily adaptable in a way that I feel like he's always going to remain fresh. And, you know, even the fact that like his name is like he's known as Penguin, like he had everything to just be a forgettable character like the Calculator, or like, you know, like we went through some of the characters in the beginning that had a cool name but didn't have a lasting presence, and the Penguin's like It's a simple name. It's an animal that it's actually really cute. But he just keeps popping up because he's a really good character, and he's a character that you can play around with a lot. And again, like Danny DeVito as Penguin is amazing when he's like vomiting the black stuff. That's great.
Which is not something you'll hear over on Smart Out Moment. But
well, there goes my plans for the next episode.
Has there ever been a better casting than Danny DeVito as the Penguin?
Yeah, like so good. And that makeup was like, to this day, people that go to makeup school talk about that makeup because it was done so well. And I mean, it's Danny DeVito. Like he can make any character work, like no matter what you give him. So
DeVito is great.
Yeah.
I was just having a discussion the other day or yesterday. I don't know, my days blur together about this whole thing that's happening with DMX right now. That like he seems like he's kind of on his way out. And it was Wago and Peyton and we were talking about the idea of like when some celebrities pass away, it's like, oh man, this really like it hits you hard, like a Robin Williams type. And then some other ones, it's like, oh, I never even heard about that person or whatever. But we were just talking about the idea of celebrities that like what's going to be like a celebrity where you would go, no, not that one. And we ran a list of names, and one of the ones where I was like, oh, guys, I mean, come on, Danny DeVito. Because it's just like, oh, God, yeah, Danny DeVito. Like, we don't ever want to hear about that because Danny DeVito's amazing. He seems like a great guy. And, God, even him in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is so great. Just, whoops, I dropped my Magnum condom for my monster dong.
He's awesome. One of the like things like I keep hoping happens, and I've been in New York for 11 years now. I still want to see Danny DeVito walking around in the village because I've seen so many pictures of him just wearing like boxers, a robe, and slippers, and walking his dog while the dog is wearing a dress. I'm like, this is amazing. This should be at the MoMA.
So if we're talking mobster characters, that's one of the major facets, I think. Because mobsters are, I don't think we can make a case that like a corrupt cop like Arnold Flass or even like a Sal Maroni or Rupert Thorne or Carmine Falcone, I don't think we can say that they are specifically Mount Rushmore types, but the mob, if you grouped it together, that's kind of the reason Batman exists. And I was
going to ask about Joe Chill.
I was just going to say, I would make a case that it's hard to say that Joe Chill isn't on the list because he's the entire purpose of the series exists.
I would make an argument for Joe Chill.
He is not as wild of a character. He's not the type that a lot of people wouldn't be able to tell you Joe Chill's name because they would just be like, oh, Batman's parents get killed by some guy. And the same as we don't really know the name of the burglar that killed Peter Parker's Uncle Ben. Dennis Carradine is a character name that they've thrown out before, but like not many people are going to go, oh, Dennis Carradine, that's the guy that killed Uncle Ben. And if you said Joe Chill, a lot of people wouldn't know what it is, the same as if you said, tell me about the Joker. But everybody knows Batman's parents get shot in an alley. And Joe Chill, sometimes they make him where he's been working for the mob. Sometimes he actually flat out kills the Waynes on purpose for like a mob hit. Sometimes he's just some dude with a gun. And every story ultimately in some fashion goes back to Joe Chill because Batman's always having these debates with people about, like, again, in the animated series, the Justice League Unlimited, I think it was technically at that point. It might not have been. It might have been just regular Justice League, where it's the counterpart Earth Justice Lord version of Batman. He wins the argument of whether or not you should be a horrible dictator with a militant kind of idea because he just says, well, by doing that, we're not going to have a world where somebody loses their parents to some punk with a gun. And Batman's like, all right, yeah, you win. Like, you won the argument by reminding me that my parents got killed.
Poor Bruce. I mean, it's almost arguable that Bruce can be on this list because
He's his own worst enemy in a lot of ways, yeah.
like he and his mental trauma really are the worst enemy of Batman.
Yeah.
But then again, you could be like, hey, Alfred, how about you send him to some help instead of being like, I'll teach you how to fight and stuff. I would say Joe Chill is one of those ones that I might make a fight for. As like the representation of like the mob and the like, you can never win ultimately. Batman can fight crime for 10,000 years and there's still going to be some goody with a gun.
And
yeah, that's a good argument.
That is one of the main points of the Red Hood.
That's a character that we could talk about for sure.
And like, even that's the start of the Joker. Obviously, you know, Jason Todd later takes it over. There's definitely a lot of the internal struggles of Bruce Wayne in the Red Hood. And I think that makes him a great villain, even though he's ultimately an ally by the end of most stories.
Like, I don't consider Jason Todd Red Hood as a villain. I consider him an anti-hero.
Yeah.
But
I think so too.
The Red Hood idea is to, like, Batman's like, hey, fuck you, dude. You know, kind of like...
Just like that.
Yeah. Not quite as much like the I'll fucking kill you from the end of the Justice League movie that we just watched recently, but...
Which was amazing.
That was like one of the best parts of that movie.
Kudos to the Snyder Cut for getting Batman to finally say, and make no mistake about it, I will fucking kill you.
Yeah. Character is not in the Mount Rushmore, but we're at my list, at least at this point, we're down to like characters that I think actually are worth a little bit of a discussion. This one being the least of the bunch, Man-Bat. I mean, it's literally, you know, what if you want to do like a mirror version of Batman? It's, you know, Batman, Man-Bat. So it's a gimmick. He fights a big bat. You know, it's, you should put him in every version of the story. If you're like doing a series, he should always fight Man-Bat at least once. But
the bat does follow the rat.
I wouldn't make a case for Hugo Strange or Achilles Milo or any of the like Arkham scientist types, because I think that they're better as just like, they'd be like D tier.
Yeah,
I'd agree with that.
Not iconic enough.
Hugo Strange does learn Batman's identity and he does mess up a lot of stuff, but again, is anybody really going to say that they're going to pick Hugo Strange over Scarecrow? I don't think so. Hush is cool. Not in the top 4.
Now, when I think Hush, I think Riddler because of the animated movie.
Hush couldn't even hold his own story. That's where I'd make the argument. Thomas Elliot and that whole thing is very cool. He's got a cool look to him. He's kind of like Darkman in a little bit with like the tattered rags on his face and everything, and the gauze. But you needed Joker and a hypnotized Superman and Poison Ivy and Catwoman and Batman getting together and the Riddler being in there. Hush couldn't hold his own. Somebody who can hold his own, though, is Two-Face.
Yeah.
Harvey Dent is fucking great. He represents a struggle that anybody can relate to. And I think we've all had those moments where, you know, we're fighting two different philosophies. Obviously not as extreme, and we don't leave our decisions up to a coin. But, you know, I like the concept of Two-Face.
Yeah. He's a really, like, amazing metaphor for even, like, the whole Batman mythos. He's the duality of man, the duality of thought, the duality of action. And even the whole idea with the coin, it's like, sometimes that battle between the two sides inside us is so strong that like how do you settle that? You just leave it to luck. You just leave it to like, outside forces to guide you. So that alone to me makes him worthy of a spot. I think he's just a really cool character that again can be sculpted in different ways. You can be funnier with him, or you can be very, very, very dark and very you can push the viewer to kind of like think about how they feel about things. So that's really cool.
Yeah, you can get a version of the character that's just flipping a coin a bunch of times and he's just like, damn it, I keep getting tails. Or you could get a version of the character that, like, I really like the version that gets the plastic surgery to fix his face, but then it's like, oh crap, all we did was fix his face, and now he doesn't have that duality anymore because the bad version is the only one that exists anymore. Two-Face is great. He's a great reflection on Batman because he's not only the whole there's two sides of your face kind of thing, but he's also, Harvey used to be the White Knight of Gotham, and he was the guy that represented like hope for the future in the Dark Knight series, and some incarnations he's one of Bruce's best friends. So it's kind of like, well, I always want to redeem Harvey because if he can be redeemed, anybody can be redeemed, kind of a thing. I think ultimately I wouldn't pick him in the Mount Rushmore because I kind of view him as like a tragic anti-hero that hasn't been redeemed yet, more so than four of the main villains, even though he's like, he murders people and everything. Like, he's clearly a villain and he can never be fully redeemed. But I think that would like push him out of the list for me ultimately. We'll come back around to it.
I think he's more of a personal favorite, but objectively, no.
For that matter, I'm going to say right now, Catwoman is not in my Mount Rushmore.
Well, hold on.
Oh, she's not really a villain though.
She's too good as like Bruce's love interest for me to say that she's Mount Rushmore of villains. I never look at her as a full villain.
I don't either.
I guess
I
that's-
love her. She's one of my favorite characters, but I don't think she's a villain.
Yeah, if this was Mount Rushmore of Batman characters, I'd make a case that she has to be on it. But not favorite characters, it's villains. And I never like it when Catwoman is only the villain. So when they do things like Anne Hathaway's version where she's kind of bad, but then she ends up with Bruce, that's my Catwoman. I ultimately think that those two need to be together at the end. I always want to pair them up.
I think that's fair.
Screw you, Talia.
In the same vein, I'll say Poison Ivy's amazing and awesome and a great character, but not a Mount Rushmore villain.
Yeah, she's kind of
Agreed.
too justified.
Yeah, exactly. Like I am 100% behind her. Turn everything to a forest, kill people. Yeah, we deserve it. But yeah, 100% behind her.
And they do a good job with her in a lot of stories where sometimes she's not really crazy. And sometimes she is just sort of like, nah, man, plants are great and people suck. And if you're not messing with my plants, then I'm okay with that. And
Hello.
I like when they make her a resource that Batman can go to for like, kind of an antitoxin or something. And the one Batman game, I'm blanking on which one it was. The one where that's Arkham Knight. That's what it is. Where, spoiler alert, where she ends up sacrificing herself to like do an
Save the
antidote
plants.
sort of thing. Like that's kind of my Poison Ivy, where she's bad and she'll probably kill a lot of people, but she'll probably kill a lot of people that are doing things like harming the ecosystem.
Exactly. They deserve
Yeah,
it.
and they do deserve it.
Yeah. She's awesome. She's absolutely awesome.
In that same regard, you're gonna hate me for this, Rob, but Mr. Freeze can't be on my Mount Rushmore.
No, we're gonna fight. No, this is a fight. Look, Victor Freeze is, if nothing else, he's a testament to how good the animated series is, because before the animated series, Mr. Freeze was a joke character.
He was garbage. He was Mr. Zero.
And this show puts him in such a way that everything changes. They literally rewrite the character, and every Mr. Freeze we see from here on out is from the animated series. I think his story is great. I think he is justified in his rampage, but I think he's absolutely a Mount Rushmore villain just because of the stories that he tells.
But he's so redeemable. And he's so good in like that supportive Poison Ivy ally kind of role that's where I go. Like, to me, there's basically 3 Mr. Freeze stories. There's Freeze turns into Mr. Freeze, and he's trying to, save Nora, and he's spitting out a bunch of ice puns. Just let's kick some ice and everything.
Ice to meet you.
I mean, if we're going Mount Rushmore of Batman characters in the history of whatever, then Arnold Schwarzenegger's Mr. Freeze is up there, because it's just, take 2 of these and call me in the morning and whatever. But unless we start getting into, can we compare Catwoman doing the meow and Mr. Freeze going, then we're not having that debate. But you tell that story, you tell the story of like somebody blackmails him into doing some more evil stuff again because they've got like Nora hostage or something, and you tell the story of him like helping Batman out. And if those are the 3 basic stories, other than that, it's just Mr. Freeze stealing diamonds or stealing more money for his research, and he wouldn't do it if Bruce just gave him a check.
All right, well, now that we have consecutively ruled out 2 major villains because they're justified,
Yeah.
can we say that Batman himself is the villain for just allowing this shit to go on?
And for kind of inviting a lot of people to be like, I'm going to put on this kind of mask, and I'm going to be the Mad Hatter, and I'm going to abduct people and, try to play games with a fucking tea party and whatever, because Batman's doing his Batman thing. I'm going to do this thing. Like,
Yeah, it's your fault, Bruce.
Yeah. God damn it. Everybody knows that Batman would have been able to save the day if he just gave everybody all his money. And money makes the world go around. Mad Hatter's cool, by the way, but he's not going on the list.
No.
Oh.
But I'd make that argument that Mr. Freeze can't be the top 4 because of that. He's an amazing, amazing character. And if we're talking characters, of course, then that's a different story. But villain, I don't look at him as a villain as much.
That's fine.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I still see him as a villain, but I agree with what Tony said. I feel like he's not setting the world on fire just for the sake of it. He's not hurting people just for the sake of it. Yeah, that's true.
The Ice Age.
That was good. But you know what I mean? Like, he's not creating chaos just for the sake of it. He has a goal, and his goal at the end of the day is because of love. Like, he's a very tragic character, and I feel like he's one of those, in a way, he's my favorite kind of villain, because he has a really good motive to be doing what he does, and he gets you to think like, oh, okay, poor guy, I am siding with him. But if we're talking about the really bad ones, and by saying bad, I mean good, scary villains that are awful people or something like a person, if they're not fully human, I don't think that he should be the last 4.
Yeah, because I would be much happier if I was stuck in a room with Mr. Freeze than Black Mask. I think Black Mask would just kind of, well, I mean, he's more of a mobster type. He wouldn't just flat out kill me, but
yeah, because you're Italian.
Yeah, just be like, hey, Roman, hey, what's up? But like, he's just a bad guy. He just kills people. He's just a murderer. He is only interested in profit and death. And I'm not going to make the case for Black Mask. I don't think he's as interesting. Great character in a lot of different ways, but he's C tier in some ways. Killer Croc, for that matter, too. I can't put him in the top 4. He's great, but he's a giant crocodile.
I'm not as impressed by Killer Croc, and I'm okay with him not being in the top 4.
Yeah, I like the version of him best when he's not even a giant crocodile, when he's a guy with a skin condition. That's my favorite version, because then that's even better. And for that matter, I'm not going to make the argument that Baby Doll.
Baby Doll's a fun character, though.
She's a fun character.
Yeah, she's great in the show like that, but she's not a Mount Rushmore.
All right, so let's have some fun with this. If we're just going Injustice and Dark Knight Returns alone, Superman. Superman's a fucking villain.
It's worth a discussion. It's kind of...
Yeah,
sometimes they make Superman definitely the villain, and sometimes they make him where it's like, well, Batman's just being a dick, and I can't say Superman needs to be on the Mount Rushmore, but he is an adversary all the time, because even when they're best buds, they're arguing constantly. He's just like...
Batman always has to say, I'm prepared for you to go insane, to the point where, again, it was featured in the Snyder Cut. Like, I'm prepared for you to just fucking lose it. So, I think it's worth a discussion, but obviously Superman being on the Mount Rushmore of
a villain list
just seems wrong.
One of my favorite little interactions that I've ever seen from the Batman and Superman kind of dynamic is, I think it's Infinity Crisis, or maybe it's Identity Crisis or something, but one of those at this point, they did one crisis and everybody knew what it was, and now they've done 50 of them, and who knows which one's which. But the one where Bruce says to Clark, let's face it, the last time that you were actually motivating anybody was when you were dead. It's like, God damn it, man. You're an asshole.
He is an asshole, but that's why we're talking about him, because that's why Tony likes him.
He's so good. Like, he says that line and you're like, oh, what a dick, but he's right, kind of thing. I don't know how much of a case I'd make for this, but I really, really like the Court of Owls.
Yeah, they're good, and they have ties to Bruce's parents and the backstory of Gotham, and I think there's something to be said there. But man, I don't know. I can't fully get on board.
I can't Mount Rushmore them.
No.
Although that'd be a cool image to see the Court of Owls face in the Mount Rushmore. But they're cool. They're like the Illuminati, kind of. And we need to see them in a movie. That needs to be something.
They're the star of the next game. I know whatever comes next from the Arkham crew is going to be starring the Court of Owls.
They're going to run out of, like... I know when it was like Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, and people were like, is it going to be like Arkham State or Arkham World or whatever? Eventually they're going to get to like Arkham Playground and like Arkham Beach, because Arkham waiting in the line at the DMV.
I mean,
there's the real villains.
Make you go mad.
Yeah, that'll be the inspiration for a new villain. It'll just be like, damn it, I'm waiting in line so long. I'm just going to start killing people. Like,
yeah, that'll probably be like my worst villain.
The DM villain. That's what they'll call him. So we have 4 on my list right now that we haven't talked about that are big guns, and I will plant my foot down that one of them absolutely 100% cannot be on this list.
Oh, God.
There's no way Harley Quinn gets on the Mount Rushmore.
No.
She is a phenomenal character. And one of the absolute best characters that they've ever created for this series. but she is not above the other ones as far as being a villain, because she's ultimately the sidekick who they're trying to turn into a hero.
You know what? Another character that illustrates the strength and importance of Batman the Animated Series.
Yep, created for the show.
She almost kills Bruce. She has him all tied up, and Bruce only saves himself because he knows the Joker is such an egomaniac that he won't allow it to happen. And there's something to be said there for me about how smart Harley actually is, but yeah, no, she's the Joker's sidekick. And even nowadays, she's not even that. Like,
she's definitely smart. I mean, didn't she? Was she studying to get a PhD when she became Harley Quinn, or she already had one? Like, she's smart, but even like the fact that she's not anymore constantly trying to go after Batman, like seriously, unless like, you know, with the animated series, like, yeah, it's kind of like a joke that she wants to like be one of the top villains, but not really. So one of my favorite characters, but nope, not happening.
She's on that list to me that's like, if we made a Mount Rushmore of villains that aren't really 100% villains, it'd be Catwoman, Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, and Mr. Freeze, basically. Because it's like, Harley's with a tragic character. She started off as a good person that just fell in love with the most evil psychopath in the entire universe, basically, and that just fucked her up, and she got to a point where she just became, you know, you can't argue that she's not a great character, because she's an amazing character, and she's such a good way to start talking about things, like, because, I mean, the series is one of the reasons why the Batman character is so much better than, say, I don't know, you can't get that deep with even like the Flash. I love the Flash, but Captain Cold versus the Flash doesn't get people talking about abusive relationships.
Right.
You know, like, every aspect of the Batman series, for the most part, when it's as good as it can be, is like, this is a dark reflection of yourself, and this is what happens if you can take obsession into this way, or this is what happens if whatever, and this is a story about this type of a psychological trauma or whatever. And if anybody's interested in that aspect of that, check out the Arkham Sessions podcast with Andrea Lettamenti.
So good.
Because
they're doing Steven Universe now, but the Arkham Sessions and the Batman the Animated Series episodes are so good.
She's like a trained psychologist or something, and she just breaks down like, well, you know, in this episode, this one's exhibiting signs of borderline personality disorder, and this is like that kind of thing, whatever. It's really good. But Harley is one of those characters that I think is misinterpreted a lot by a lot of people, because God knows how many people you see that are like, oh, me and my boyfriend, like, we're just like Harley Quinn and Joker. And it's like,
yeah,
girl, you don't want that to be the case, because Joker is fucking terrible to her. You're not just like the two people hanging out in Hot Topic. He is a monster.
Absolutely. Like, and even the fact that, you know, one could argue that she didn't really fell in love with him. Like, he manipulated her to fall into obsession with him. And I feel like that's like a big difference, because once she got caught into that, like, her whole life changed, and it didn't change for the better. Like, she, you know, in many ways, like, you could even say that she is almost like a mirror reflection of Bruce, because they both had a psychopath destroy their normalcy, and their life just derailed from them, and they both kind of like got dragged into darkness.
Yeah, so she's not going to be a Mount Rushmore for me. But the two that I have left, outside of the one that we know we're putting in there, I think that there's an argument for these two, and I'll just spit them out because, you know, why not? I can see a case being made for Bane, and I can see a case being made for Ra's al Ghul, or Ra's al Ghul, depending on how you pronounce it.
I hate Ra's al Ghul. I will fight you.
What? How can you hate Ra's al Ghul?
Okay, I like the Lazarus Pit idea. I think he's only featured in like a limited number of stories and they're all the same kind of thing. I think what he does is great. I think the way he's used more often than not is shit.
Fair enough.
So you don't really hate the character, you just kind of hate how like he's been utilized.
Well, I mean, if we're talking Mount Rushmore and it's not gonna be Freeze, I'll fight for Freeze over Ra's.
He's so salty. I have to say, I absolutely love when Rob gets salty. To me, that's like my favorite Rob because he just gets like so passionate about something that I can see how annoyed he is. It's great. I love it. Continue.
But so Ra's will put a pin in, but I'm not sold. Bane is a different story because Bane has fucked Batman up.
And for that matter, I mean,
Very
we're not
true.
talking Bane that's like, Gotham is yours. Like, yeah, that's not Bane in his most effective way. Bane is the guy that sets Batman up for a gauntlet just so that he's weak enough and tired enough that Bane can pop up and break his back. Like, Bane is smart. He's one of the most physical threats that they have in the entire series, arguably even stronger than Killer Croc. But he's sometimes kind of a reflection of Batman because they've even had stories where Bane's been an ally.
Yeah.
And it's
true.
like, well, if Bane decided to be, he could be a damn good hero. But he's a jacked up steroid villain instead. And he's kind of like what would happen if Bruce decided to go in the more vigilante side of things. Like, I guess he's like, you combine Batman with Lockup and you end up getting Bane. Lockup's cool, by the way. Bane's up there for me. And more as years go on, the more I'm like, I really like Bane.
Is it Nightfall?
Yeah.
Where he breaks his back? Oh my god, it's an iconic
Great name,
cover.
too.
It is. It really is. And he has a great like backstory to him. Like he's not just a muscle dude. Like he's a true villain. And yeah, I think to me he's a shoe-in actually.
I think he might be the first one where it's unanimous.
I will put up a little bit of a pin in him for when we were actually looking at our full-on list, but you get a character like Bane where he's got a tragic backstory, so that's already something that's like, it's interesting. And for anybody who doesn't know like too much about Bane, he's not the character from Batman and Robin, where he's just some dude that falls into a vat and then he's like, I'm Bane. Brr. No, he is a guy who is born in prison and he's sentenced to live out a prison sentence that doesn't apply to him. And he gets attached to a teddy bear because it's like the only thing he has in prison, to the point where there's stories where it's like, let's calm Bane down and show him the teddy bear and be like, that kind of thing. And it's like,
Oh God.
it's like, aw,
it's
poor
the
Bane.
only thing that would like hug him back as a kid. Like,
right?
How upsetting and traumatic is that? Like,
To be
that's
like
heartbreaking.
Your formative years are in prison with terrible killers and all that, where you have to fight to survive and you have to hide a knife inside your teddy bear. Like, and for him to just be like, I'm gonna be a warlord then, and he pulls it off more often than not. He's usually destroying Gotham in a lot of ways, so he gets the job done too, which a lot of other people don't. And I'd ultimately go Bane over Ra's al Ghul, but
I would agree with that, and he's got luchador vibes, and like that's a plus.
He does.
And he's also a character that they can do in a lot of stories where it's, if they want to boil him down to something that's simpler, he could just be the big brute that Batman cuts the cable for, and then he's not using the venom anymore. And
I'm pretty sure Joker is the only one that gets boiled down.
Depends on different versions. Sometimes Mr. Freeze boils and stuff. So, but even like funny versions of Bane, like it's not intended to be funny, but that voice that Tom Hardy does is hilarious because he just sounds like some doting old grandfather or something. And the version from the Harley Quinn show of him just being, like the big guy that can't sit in the good seat and stuff,
He has like a rehab hole.
Yeah. I love Bane. Bane's great. I love that you don't even know his full name too. Sometimes they make him like Durante and whatever, but he's just Bane. Really cool, interesting version of the character is Max Landis's. He's been doing this thing called the Kryptonian Epic, and I would never want this to be like the version of it that they would ever go with in a real story, but for his one shot, like I'm just doing some interesting stuff here. He makes Bane not a real character, that's like a schizophrenic multiple personality disorder version of Batman, where he just decides to be I'm gonna make a villain that people can go to and they're actually going to me. And it Bane, the name comes from B for Bruce and the Ain for the last part of Bruce Wayne. So it's like Bane, Bruce Wayne kind of thing like that. And I was like, that's pretty cool. But obviously, the one that's guaranteed to go on this list is the Joker, because the Joker is the best villain that's ever existed in anything. Not even just Batman. I think it's the best villain in the history of media.
Even when he's bad, he's good. Even the Cesar Romero Joker is great. The different takes on the characters through the years is so iconic in their own way. I think even more than Batman, people have definitive Jokers. Like, there are people who don't even talk to me. It's Jack Nicholson or nothing. There are people, like I said, who grew up with the Why So Serious Heath Ledger Joker. I cannot look at the Joker without hearing Mark Hamill's voice, even when it's somebody else playing the role. The Joker is the blueprint for villains. He is the blueprint for psychosis. He's the blueprint for a lot of things that are right and wrong with this world, and he's absolutely just cemented into this monument before it's even thought of. It's just, okay, Joker and the other three.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He is a character that, for every aspect of what the villains can be, the only one he's not at the tippy top for in some ways is the physicality, because he's never like a physical challenge for Batman. But in some incarnations, he's a former mobster. And even if he's not a former mobster, he at least is creating his own gang, and he's taking down the mob, and he's replacing the mob. And so he's involved in the mob side of things. He is on the fear side of things, because I forget what comic it is, but there's like a story where somebody says when the other villains get together and they want to scare each other, they tell Joker stories, which is so cool, because it's just like, you imagine like, I don't know, like some characters that are on like the Flash and the Superman side of things and whatever, and they're all just sort of like, "Did you hear what the Joker did? Like, that guy's really fucked up." And he's the ethical side of things, because people always make the argument, should Batman just kill Joker? Because every time that he breaks out, more and more people die. Batman should just break his rule and kill him. But then if he breaks his rule, then the Joker wins. And then it becomes, well, goddamn, like, you can't win with the Joker.
You know, that's bullshit. I've always heard the whole, well, I can't break my one rule. Bullshit. I've seen Bruce break plenty of rules and just, maintain full control over himself. He doesn't want to kill the Joker because they are in love. If any Batman creation displayed this relationship the best, it was unironically the Lego Batman movie. Where
and you still haven't seen that, right, sweetie?
I have have not. No.
Oh
I
my
can't wait to
God.
watch that with you because it's so good.
You would love that film. It's adorable, and it just centers around this idea that no, they actually need each other because they just complete each other in every way, and that's the only reason Joker's not dead on sight. Because really, why would you let a psychopath like that roam free? Yeah, you could do the whole do it by the book, do it our way. Bullshit. Kill him.
Somebody should kill him at some point. It's just kind of
Well,
like, you gotta kill that
can't
guy.
really though, because so the Joker, I think he's a representation of not only just like the ultimate darkness, but also chaos, and you can't have order without chaos.
Yeah.
So like he completes Batman. Like Batman won't be Batman if there is no Joker, because Batman is somebody who's trying to create some sort of order, not only in his own head, but in Gotham. And he can't do that unless there is chaos. And if that force of chaos, because, all the other villains, yeah, they can create chaos, but, we know their backstories for sure. And, like, they're normally, like, reasons, or we can kind of, like, try to justify some of their actions. It's just like we were talking about Bane, like, oh, he has such a traumatic childhood, like no wonder why he like became this monster. But like with the Joker, a lot of the times he's just this image of like, I just want to make everything chaotic just because. And if you take a Joker from like how like Heath Ledger played him, like he did not care about his own well-being because he was just like whatever. And that alone is always scary, because we as humans, we, no matter what, even when we're suicidal, we're still trying to survive. Even if that's why you can't like drown yourself to death just by throwing yourself in the river. Your body will try to survive, and the Joker, it's almost like he doesn't have that, and that is like very unhuman of him, and that's just chaos. So you can't really get rid of the Joker. He's always going to be there. And if for some reason he gets killed, somehow another Joker just like him is going to sprout from the ground and keep doing what he's doing.
Yeah, they make it a lot of times where even in his death he becomes a martyr. And then there's like a gang of Jokers that are like, yeah, I worship the Joker because he had a great point, or like he inspires other characters, or
That's the whole bit of Punchline.
yeah, Punchline character that just exists because it's like it's a fangirl for the Joker. And he's also great in the way that like if everybody's doing a reflection of Batman sort of thing, Batman's about order, he's about chaos. Batman's the dark, brooding. If you would come across these two without knowing anything about them, you would assume that the clown was the good guy, because the clown is this bright, fun, energetic, welcoming kind of character. I mean, clowns are creepy as shit, but like they're supposed to be something that like a kid can go and be like, oh, look at the funny clown.
Children, please stay away from clowns.
Yes, please.
Stay away from all clowns, because there's never been a good clown, it seems.
Just stay away from any like unknown adult
Yeah.
that tries to get to you.
But like, if you're gonna see a dude dressed up as a clown, you're gonna go, oh, he's an entertainer and he's there to make me laugh. And you're gonna see a guy dressed up as a bat who's hanging out on a gargoyle and punching people, and you're gonna go, that guy's fucking crazy. He's the bad guy. But the fun and bright and colorful and laughing guy is the bad guy. And he's the one that's murdering people left and right. And that's infinitely interesting, because you can always get these stories about, even just the way that he kills people is some of the best stuff. To die laughing uncontrollably when you're paralyzed that's awful. And when you see characters in some of the stories and they do things like they just start laughing and you go, oh, fuck, Joker got him. Version of that's really good is the Return of the Joker from Batman Beyond, where you got Tim Drake laughing and whatever. It's just kind of like, there's worse ways to die, I'm sure, but that's got to be on the list, and whether it's a funnier version of the character that's just pulling out some goofy, I got the, what are they called? The teeth, the chattering teeth kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, you got that character version that's doing that and pulling out a giant comical gun, or the one that's just stealing jewels because what the hell, why not? Or the one that's, like I mentioned earlier, which is, I got a boner for you kind of thing. Like, or you got the character that cuts people's faces off and serves it to them on a platter. And it's like, you want to eat your face? And it's like, Jesus God, like, the dude skins somebody alive in one of the comics just because it's like, oh, that'll be fun, kind of. And he just skins them. And so no matter what,
Fun.
yeah, it's fun for him. No matter what version of this, like if you're going for the Batman that's more on the goofier side of things, Joker's on the Mount Rushmore. If you're going for the version that's dark and everybody's a disgusting human being and it's terrible and there's psychos all over the place and whatever, Joker's on the list. If you're going for the Batman that's like Bat God, like the Batman who laughs and the Justice League and whatever, Joker's on the list because he becomes Emperor Joker, and like it always comes down to Joker. So 100% locked in. Joker is if we could only pick one on the list, it's Joker.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's got a Lincoln Monument on top of being on the Mount Rushmore.
Yes.
He could be the Statue of Liberty as well, too.
Yeah, he really could.
So the other three, though, that kind of comes down to, based off of our list, we could only pick three out of Scarecrow, Riddler, Penguin, Joe Chill, Bane, Ra's al Ghul, and Two-Face.
I'm going to go ahead and say you got to lock in Riddler.
I will send you guys this list on our Skype chat so that way it's easier to reference instead of me being the only one that has an actual list up.
I think you have to lock in Riddler. He's so good at making you think. He's like you said, he's the anti-greatest detective. And when you want to tell that story with Batman, he does it so flawlessly. And I really want to see the story you're talking about where he just turns himself in because he's like, I tried not to give a clue. And I just can't help myself. Riddler is, I think, when it comes to the 66 Batman, I think he's better than the Joker in that series, quite frankly, because they play him too close to the Joker. But Riddler is that good. And I think he should absolutely be locked in.
I disagree with that. Looking at the list now, I would say that just for the fact that he tries to turn himself in at one point and that he becomes an ally, I think that he's the easiest one to like cross out.
Well, Tony, you're breaking the tie.
I'll put a pin in him. I would cross off Two-Face for the reasons we talked about before. That ultimately I think that he's B tier, and I would cross out Ra's al Ghul because even though Al Ghul is great for representation for like, well, if Batman decided to, he's smart enough that he could just be like, let's take over the world and replace it and do this kind of stuff. But he's kind of an ally in some ways too. He respects Batman a lot. He's always calling him detective. I mean, he's his father-in-law in some ways. Like,
he's the grandfather of his child.
Yeah, and he's usually trying to get Batman to replace him. So even though they disagree, I don't think he would be a Mount Rushmore because he's like, I think if they sat down and they talked, Batman might be able to convince him to be a hero.
You're adorable. Just sit down and talk.
Sometimes that's all you need. Communication is key.
I mean, but you know what? He's right. I mean, he's got a point there. I think either way, depending on how either person wakes up that day or whatever mood Talia is in that day, they could both sway one another. So there's
Talia,
not.
some days she's just kind of like, I love you so much. Can we please have a kid? Another day she's like,
I'm
take his
gonna
fucking
drug
head off. You know?
Yeah.
See, that's why she's not as
Relatable.
good as to be Bruce's forever love like Selena, because Selena's better.
Yes.
I'll give you
All
that.
right, I agree with that though. I agree with what you said. So I'm okay crossing those two out too.
So that leaves us with
Riddler, Joe Chill, Penguin, Bane, and Scarecrow for 3 spots. So we'd have to knock 2 of those out.
All right, can I make a case for Bane? I
Yeah.
think that we all agreed, right? I think that though he was.
yeah, we already
agreed on
kind
him,
of
right?
agreed that he's
Okay,
going on the
all right.
list.
Okay, so then we only have 2 spots.
I will say there's a chance I might take Bane out for somebody depending on what it is, but my kind of the way I'm thinking is I think Joe Chill has to be on there.
I think so too. And it's so weird because
Yeah.
the others are they have much grander legacies.
Yeah.
But in a weird way, Joe Chill's legacy is the fucking Batman. So it's like, you gotta go with Joe Chill. He represents that mobster era. They just brought him back for the 3 Jokers.
Yeah, that was a really good story. He's also kind of just like he represents every generic bad guy. Because Batman's always just punching up some goon. And any one of those could be a Joe Chill and just kill somebody's parents. So I would say like Joker and Joe Chill for me. And then the other 2, I think ultimately I would take Scarecrow out. And it would be between Bane, Riddler, and Penguin for the 2 spots. So it would be like one of those 2 or whatever. One of those would have to be taken out.
Penguin's really iconic. I still think he needs to be in it. I feel like if we're not talking about the Joker, but if he's a character that still feels fresh and he's exciting and you can do so much with him. And he's a good adversary. I think that he needs to be in it.
He's in a lot of the iterations of Batman. So I think there's something to be said there. I might have to lock in Penguin, but then I don't know, because we still have to figure out Riddler.
And a guarantee
I
for
already made up
Bane.
my mind.
Well,
So in Caroline's list, it would be Joker, Joe Chill, Penguin, and Bane.
Yep.
And
That's
Rob's would
exactly
be Joker, Joe Chill, Bane, and Riddler.
yeah. So you're
Uh.
I mean, come on, guys. Like, we're talking about like the villains. Like, we just talked about how the Riddler becomes there are stories that becomes an ally. Like, you don't get that with Penguin. You don't get that. Like, I guess you can argue that Bane kind of becomes an ally at some point, but doesn't he often just switches back into being evil? I know that like is in Arkham City, he asks for Batman's help, and then at the end he tries to like kill Batman again or like break his back again or whatever. Like, I think he's a much more like just like more like he's evil. Like he's way more evil than the Riddler. I think that we kind of like, especially when Tony was saying that the Riddler's cool as long as people are like, okay, you're smart. He just like settles down.
But then again, Penguin sometimes is like, Bruce will let him be, and he'll be like, you know, he's doing his thing. I'm just gonna pop in the Iceberg Lounge and intimidate him and be like, all right, stop being this. If not, then I'll come back tomorrow, kind of a thing too. So, I don't like making the pick between this.
Being the mob guy though, he's still probably doing mob stuff. He might not be like actively trying to destroy Gotham completely, but he's still doing mafia related stuff. If the Riddler's not doing his riddles and then he's just like chilling because people finally acknowledge that he's smart, then he's just chilling.
So we got Joker, Joe Chill, and Bane. Those are locked.
Yeah, because they're like definitively evil. You know, because even like you said, there are moments where sometimes Penguin's just doing, generic villain things, but Batman leaves him alone. Batman's like, nah, you're good. Run the Iceberg Lounge. Don't steal anything, and I won't have a problem with you.
Yeah, then other times Riddler is like, hey, Eddie, can you help me out with this? And it's like, oh, man, I thought I'd be like the one that would be the one making the cases for things, and instead I'm like, I don't want to pick between Riddler and Penguin. That's kind of the whole point. That's what makes it difficult, though.
I knew that you're gonna be the one left trying to.
You know what this list is definitively missing, though, Tony?
Oh my god.
A woman.
That's like one of the main takeaways from this Bond review to a kill is that one line from Moonraker.
Because it fits everywhere. Just, a woman.
A woman. Riddler or Penguin? See, this is where if we were doing this live and we had a group of people, we could be like, all right, give us your thoughts. Try to sway us one way or another.
Decision, not us.
Yeah.
No, just make a decision. Come on.
So here's where I'm thinking. Who wins in a fight? Neither of them. So they're on the same playing field. Both get their asses beat by Batman easy.
Right.
Penguin's got some cool gadgets with the umbrellas.
I would agree with that.
That gives him an edge over Riddler with the staff, like that cane that he has, because ultimately the cane's just a question mark cane, and maybe he can smack you in the face with it or whatever, but that's about it.
And Danny DeVito played him.
But Jim Carrey played Riddler.
Yeah, but I'm over Jim Carrey. He's no longer a crush. Danny DeVito as Penguin will always be a crush.
And then you go with like, well, Penguin, he's got no... Sometimes, like, he really has no gimmick. He just happens to be a dude that people are like, hey, you look like a penguin, you ugly fat ass kind of thing. Like, whereas Riddler, you can always guarantee he's going to have some kind of a fun element to him because he's always going to have some kind of a trap or he's going to have something else. So that gives Riddler a boost to balance out the umbrella.
Really?
It's not easy.
This is tough.
Really,
God.
It is so easy.
So here is what I think I will ultimately land on. Penguin is featured more and in more prominent spots. Or am I wrong? Or are they featured in the same?
Riddler's the main villain in one movie. Penguin's the main villain in one movie. Both of them have a secondary villain in that movie. And Penguin is more of a character in Gotham, but then he ends up being partnered up with Riddler, so then that's another thing.
You can argue that Penguin in that movie has a way bigger role than the Riddler. Like, he's running for mayor at one point. Like,
what a weird story.
A big villain move.
Still, out of all the things if somebody's pitching, like, can you write a Batman movie? I don't think I ever would be like, yeah, it's going to be about running for mayor, you know?
Yeah, but that's, like, so fitting, though. Because
like, Harley could do it. It's weird that they were just like, no, we're going to put the Penguin. He'll be a politician.
He'll eat a fish.
Oh, I love them. I love it. I love his hands. I love, like, the makeup. I love the black stuff coming out of his mouth. Great times.
Love ice water. I think if I have a gun to my head and it's not a bang flag gun from the Joker.
Is it Gunbrella?
I think I'm going Riddler.
Oh my god, really?
Because
I'm so disappointed.
Don't break off the wedding.
I could see Tony going Riddler because he's the thinking villain. And Tony likes to think.
Because the thing that pushes me a little bit over the slightest bit more on that with Riddler is I think Riddler could get the job done better. And it always comes down to Batman has to beat the Riddler because he's the only one that's smart enough. Whereas with Penguin, I mean, I absolutely love Dick Grayson. remember I said Grayson. Robin is, and Nightwing and all that is the type of character that I think is incredibly underrated, and I really want to see him get his just service in like some movies and some stuff. But Dick's not the smartest, and if you're going to get anybody on the Bat family to take on the Riddler, it's Bruce. And if you're going to get somebody else, it's Tim. And if it's somebody else, it's Barbara. But then at the same time, like, Dick's not going to have a good time with Riddler, but Dick could beat Penguin pretty easily because he's just the guy that needs to get a punch in the face.
So, okay, here's what I'll offer in that way. If we didn't have Joe Chill to represent the mobster,
Penguin would be
I
that.
would say Penguin absolutely
Yeah.
is on this list.
So then you could even kind of make the argument, should Penguin overtake Joe Chill and have it be Joker, Penguin, Bane, and Riddler? But I do think that Joe Chill beats out Penguin.
But Joe Chill, and he really shouldn't, because he's the most basic character and is just there for the start of it, but it's the start of all of it. And we don't have this conversation if there's not a Joe Chill that murders Martha and Thomas Wayne.
If you're putting them on a poster, Joe Chill's not on the poster, Penguin is.
Right.
That's fair.
But then if you go into, well, you know, fundamental like history and everything, I'd put Joe Chill over Penguin.
Thank God this isn't a greatest movie poster.
Oh my God. But like, I feel like every single argument you guys are making for Joe Chill over Penguin could be made for Penguin over Riddler. Like, every single argument. I think that, like, at the end of the day, Penguin's like way more iconic. He represents evil better. He's been coming back.
Evil.
What?
He is more evil.
He is more evil. Everybody has agreed, like, in the beginning of this chat, of this podcast, that the Riddler has helped Batman. Not once, but a few times. So, like, I don't understand how, like, oh, you know, like, yeah, Joe Chill, like, totally, like, it's better than Penguin for this, but, you know, like, Riddler needs to be there. Like, no! That makes zero sense. Zero sense.
I'm almost more comfortable bumping Chill for Penguin, because then you just say, as a blanket statement, the Mount Rushmore is Joker, Bane, Penguin, Riddler. That stands out in the mind. If you say the Mount Rushmore is Joe Chill, Joker, Riddler, Bane, what kind of face do you give Joe Chill? Because it changes up. With Penguin, there is an iconic.
Oh, yeah.
I'm almost more comfortable saying Penguin has to go on, and Joe Chill, for all the legacy, can get bumped, because at the end of the day, he's not a standout villain.
And also, I guess, building up on that, you know, like, Joe Chill was the beginning of the story, but I think Batman really just becomes Batman every time he beats a new villain. So it's like all of them contribute to building Batman in a way. So, yeah, you know, like, I say, you know, since you don't want to get rid of the Riddler, I'll get rid of Joe Hill.
The writer.
Yeah, I know. Like, I love him. But I'll get rid of Joe Chill and then have Riddler join my select group of 4.
I think I'm very comfortable saying Penguin over Chill, and the final 4 is Joker, Bane, Riddler, and Penguin.
I think that not only is that even if I disagreed, that would be a 2-1 vote, and that would be outvoted. I could also justify that in a way by saying, not only would that make the most sense as far as the poster and like the, you know, you could put the face on there and everybody would recognize it type of thing, but also, if you want to be on a technicality, Joe Chill is more of a Bruce Wayne villain than a Batman villain.
And I would even say, if you think about the poster, are they going to show Joe Chill, or are they going to show a gun and Thomas and Martha? Joe Chill is almost an idea
Yeah.
of a mobster.
Because, I mean, they do have incarnations where Joker killed his parents, or, you know, it's a different person and Joe Chill's not even the guy responsible or whatever. It's very rare that it's not just Joe Chill, but sometimes they don't even say his name. He's just a guy. And yeah, so you can't really put on the Mount Rushmore of Batman villains the idea of crime. Like, because then it's just like sadness and the idea of crime and I miss my parents and somebody hug me.
That opens the door to saying, yeah, it is Bruce's psychology. That's the main villain. It's just all of Bruce's mind.
Yeah. So I think that locks it in. Then the Mount Rushmore of Batman's Rogues Gallery, and that too, Rogues Gallery. If they're rogues, it's Joker, Bane, Penguin, and Riddler, with the asterisk of like you can't quite get into the psychological trauma as much and that kind of thing.
And if anybody wants to nitpick and moan and groan about somebody like a Harley's like the asterisk next to the Joker, because she makes that character better, but she's not a standalone villain. And Selina, as good as she is, better as a love interest.
Yeah, Catwoman, Poison Ivy, Mr. Freeze, and Harley Quinn would be like a Mount Rushmore of like the just tweak a little bit and they're a hero kind of thing. And then kind of our B tier, I guess, would be Scarecrow, Ra's al Ghul, Two-Face, and Joe Chill.
I like it.
I'm comfortable with this.
Stamp of approval.
That makes 3. So
we got to do this again. Like, these are fun.
It'd be curious to see like what kind of discussion would come out of like because it's drastically different if you start talking about the Rogues Gallery for like Superman, because then you're like, all right, well, you lock in Lex Luthor because of Joker, and then you whatever, and then you start getting into like, oh, I'm gonna argue Metallo over Parasite and whatever. It's kind of a whole totally different discussion because you can't get super deep. It's just sort of like that dude punches hard, kind of thing. But by the way, Doomsday is one of them. So yeah,
I'd consider putting Grundy on that one, but that's for another podcast.
That is for another podcast. And if you want to make sure that we do that podcast in the future, then take advantage of the Pick Your Poison tier, just the same that Guest 5 had done for this one, because this could have realistically gone on for an extra 4 hours. We were trying not to make it be the case, but I could talk all day about Batman. And if you want to hear more of that, then keep showing your support, and you'll hear more Batman stuff and more everything stuff. Really quickly to round out a couple other plugs that we got going on here. A Review to a Kill, I mentioned before, is our James Bond series. Go and check out those episodes that we've been doing for that. When you're hearing this, most likely it's going to be at least a little bit after Easter. So we, it might even be on Easter. I don't know when you're listening to this, but the most recent episode that's been uploaded is The Spy Who Loved Me, and we're just continuing on with that. So check that out if you are interested in the 007 series. And then we've got some movie reviews. We got coming up soon. We're going to do, I think it's like April 16th or something after that. No, it might be the 23rd. We're going to eventually do the fan tracks for Mortal Kombat, which should be a lot of fun. We did one for Godzilla vs. Kong, so check that out too. Mostly just click on everything on Fanboys and do the same thing for a Smart Out moment. Hit up the merchandise shops on TeePublic and Redbubble. Subscribe, follow the Facebook and Twitter accounts. Check out what I'm doing over on the other kind of things on Tony Mango. And I'll give the plugs over to who wants to take the baton.
I'll take the baton. Yeah, if you like the pro wrestling side of things, don't just check out Smart Out Moment. Check out Fightful.com, Fightful Select, and WrestleZone.com. All great sites, all breaking news. I work for all of them. We're staying busy this week. It is WrestleMania week. This was a great little breather before we go and just dive headfirst into chaos. And yeah, thank you for your support. Follow me on Twitter @DudeFelice. And we'll be talking to you, I assume, for the next Review to a Kill.
And if you want to take a break from wrestling, and check out some art. You can check out my website in czo.com, or just follow me on Instagram and you'll find like all the links for all that crap at creepy_Caroline.
Isn't it czoarts.com, sweetie?
Yeah, it is, because nobody owns CZO.com if you want to get on that.
czoarts.com. I don't even know my own website. That's how much I check on it. I just like been posting stuff on Instagram, and I'm too lazy to go change things on my website. So yeah, just follow me on Instagram. Let's just be friends on Instagram. You can see pictures of my dog. I just uploaded a really cool slow-mo video of her humping her walrus. And I just like post my art there a lot. And every now and then I am trying to sneak in pictures of Tony, even though he never takes pictures of me. But yeah, that's it.
We don't need pictures of somebody who looks like Penguin.
Stop. That will be maybe a selfie that I posted.
No, nonsense. If you want to see a picture of Caroline dressed up as Catwoman, though, she makes a great Catwoman. So, we're going to talk about that another day, and we will see you guys when we see you. But thank you for listening to this podcast. Thank you for all your support, and we will see you next time. But for now, it's time for us to geek out.